Wake up, 49ers fans. You wake up victorious after 1 week of football. Monday night could not have gone much better for the San Francisco 49ers, and it's great to have you here. Damon Bruce, Larry Krueger, we're brought to you by Sam's Chowder House. And boy, Larry, that win last night was brought to us by an offensive line that got its job done against the vaunted Jets defensive line and Jordan Mason. Man, the night may not have ended the way you wanted it to, because there's some weird bad feelings around that press conference. But boy, everything before that was just spectacular. Hell of a night for Jordan Mason, Dominic Pooney, and the 49ers. Larry, good morning.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning, Damon. Good morning to everybody. Welcome to the first regular season edition of Wake Up as we come to you in this spot right after 49er football the next morning. First thing, we're going to be here every morning after every Niner game this year. So welcome to Wake Up. Join us. Hit like and subscribe right here. Hit like and subscribe on Damon's channel. And you know, we're going to be doing this on both channels every Monday. Usually every Monday, but it'll be, of course, on Tuesdays after Monday night games like we're doing today. It'll be Friday after Thursday night games like later this year, so on and so forth. A couple quick ones before we get into it. Raphael 46562 Niners. Good morning, Damon, Larry, and everyone. And, of course, Raphael with his customary like and subscribe. And please do, everybody.
You can set a clock to that. That man is loyal. Thank you,
he's awesome. Raphael. He's awesome. And, basically, if you hit like, that just helps the algorithm. More people find the streams, and that's really cool. And then if you hit subscribe and click that notification bell anytime I go live or Damon goes live, you won't have to miss any of it. And Raphael also says, Happy Victory Tuesday, everyone. And we have one question up front, or one comment up front that made me laugh. Everyone's worst nightmare said, Larry Krueger, you said that CMC looked you in the face and said he was going to play. I didn't just say it. We actually put the video out on YouTube. You can go look at it yourself. I mean, he was asked a direct question on Thursday. Are you going to go? Which is kind of a little, I guess, the controversy, if you want to call it that, Damon, is that there's a lot of people who are kind of sniffing around with the idea that Shanahan maybe never intended to play Christian McCaffrey in this game, or not actually never, but really maybe in the last 3 or 4 days was not intending to, but kept it a secret from the Jets and went with Jordan Mason, a little gamesmanship possibly. But the NFL has very strict rules about injuries and how they're reported and so on and so forth. And so the kid found himself in kind of after the greatest game of his NFL life. He should have been joyous. Instead, he was crestfallen because it seemed like his ass had gotten chewed by somebody on the Niners side for him divulging very innocently but candidly that somebody had informed him that he was probably going to start as far back as Friday. The announcers, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, said on the broadcast that they talked to Shanahan on Saturday and that there was zero indication that McCaffrey would not play at all. So maybe there was some gamesmanship here, maybe not. Maybe it was the Niners in the 11th hour just protecting their star running back and knowing they had a good one in reserve, but it worked out nonetheless.
I mean, if the controversy is the injury designation, questionable means this could go either way. Doubtful means it could go either way, but it's probably not going to go the way you hope it does. So it's a questionable or doubtful type of situation. They didn't really rule him out. I do believe there was an effort to get the player prepared and play. And as we talked leading up to the game, Larry, the player plays. McCaffrey told you he wanted to play. I'll bet you, had this been a playoff game, Christian McCaffrey is playing, but it's not. And you're as far away from a playoff game as a regular season will allow you to be. It's just the first game, and they thought that they had what they needed to beat the Jets with Mason. And if the league comes down on Kyle Shanahan and fines him for roster or medical information manipulation,
roster malfeasance.
I would literally, if I'm Kyle, if I'm getting dinged for that check, I'll write that check and I'll extend it to every week of the year. Kyle's got enough money to pay all the fines for skullduggery that he needs to throw out there. And I have no problems at all with any football team trying to catch another football team off guard. How about this? Unless Robert Saleh and the New York Jets are complaining about this, this is a manufactured media moment looking for controversy and, trying yet again to talk about something other than the actual game we all just watched. It's amazing how we get, Larry, I remember us doing Super Bowl pregame coverage, and everyone wanted to sort of gloss over the Super Bowl and start talking about the NFL draft. Can you please moment? Yeah. Can you we'll get to that. It's
right. Well, and that's just human nature. People, some people like to fast forward to the juicy parts and so on and so forth. But yeah, I think, and Sean Turner, who's always a voice of reason in the chat or sometimes hostility, says, who cares about the Mason stories? Celebrate the kid for dominating the supposedly good Jets D. Also, our O-line looks fantastic so far. Yeah, on the positive note, whether, and I do think there could be some gamesmanship. Heck, the Niners had to go through all kinds of hoops just to figure out what film to watch to prepare for Aaron Rodgers because he didn't play last year. He didn't play in the preseason. So they're watching Green Bay film from 2 and 3 years ago, probably trying to prep for this game.
I think they put in a Cal versus Fresno State game tape.
Exactly.
Just, check out Aaron Rodgers back in the day.
Exactly. So, I mean, maybe they just said, hey, you know what? We're going to have to do some, they had some gamesmanship with our prep. Let's have some gamesmanship back. But I think Sean Turner really hits on it. The story here, guys, is really twofold. It's that, A, the 49ers have another running back that they can win games impressively over impressive teams with. JP Mason was awesome. He was incredible yesterday. And 94 and before people sit there and be like, oh, the Niner offensive line's crap. I've been saying it for, the last couple months. The Niner offensive line is a better run blocking offensive line. And if you have more of a run oriented game plan, I think they're going to look a whole lot better. I don't know if you saw this, but the Niners O-line posted a 96.1% pass block win rate last night against the Jets. That's the third best of any team in the NFL in week 1. JP Mason, Damon, had got 94 of his 147 on the ground before contact. And only Joe Mixon of the Texans, who had 107 yards before contact this weekend, had more yards before contact. So you want to give it all to Dominic Pooney because he's the only new face from the Super Bowl line? Go for it. I talked to the kid in the locker room afterwards. He's very impressive. And I'll just say this. Did you hear a lot of Quinnen Williams' name being called? Did you see a lot of Quinnen Williams making plays? So I give it up to Brendel, Banks, and Pooney, the interior, for stepping in against Kinlaw, who's not great, but enormously strong, and Quinnen Williams, who is great, and neutralizing these guys who are sitting literally 2 steps away from Brock Purdy's face mask.
You had Kinlaw turn around Brendel once. Only happened once.
When was that, by the way?
It was a rushed throw where just sort of Brock just let it go and he sort of just overshot the field. He just got rid of it because he was in jeopardy and he just killed the down by not making a mistake. He just threw the ball away. And that was, I think, the only, Brendel had a bad moment that I really thought stood out in the game. Look, I don't know. I haven't gone over the Pro Football Focus grades. I'm just going with my own memory and my own 2 eyes after everything I saw after opening weekend. There were some rookie quarterbacks who made their debuts.
Yeah.
There were some rookie defensive players also making some impressive debuts around the league.
Can I see you a DeMarvion Overshown?
Cheers.
One of the great names, by the way. I saw Guru in the press box last night. And Guru's a big Cowboy fan, right? And he's like, I'm like, Guru, I know, you're a Cowboy fan, so I'll just say one name to you, DeMarvion Overshown. And he's like, he was all excited about him.
I got to tell you, of all the guys that I, came across and got to know at 95.7 all those years, Guru still texts me the most. I love Guru. That guy's just a wonderful.
I hate this expression, but I love it for Guru. People say blankety blank is good people. You know what I mean? Damon is good people. Goo is good people. Dude's good people. He's good
Yeah.
people.
If we had to crown after 1 week of football, who are your offensive rookie of the year candidates? I think that Dominic Pooney has as much of an argument to make after 1 week of football as Xavier Worthy has to make. Xavier Worthy was spectacular on Thursday night in his debut with the Chiefs. And Dominic Pooney, I mean, they don't give out, offensive rookie of the year to guys who don't touch the ball. Like that's not a lineman award, but I think Dominic Pooney did more to affect a game as a rookie as I've seen any rookie come around and affect the 49ers game since, Brock Purdy's obviously very, effective rookie year that he had when he was asked to answer the bell. Dude, Pooney can play. I mean, straight up, that kid's going to Pro Bowls. There is no doubt in my mind. He absorbs the bull rush. He is big enough and strong enough to stand up and play patty cake right at the line of scrimmage. He's also fast enough to get to that second level. He was out there murdering some Jets linebackers, just getting washed out of the play by him. I cannot wait.
One thing that
Schwartz and Baldy breakdowns on his game.
What's that? You can't wait for the Schwartz and Baldy breakdowns. Yeah, Baldy loves him.
It's offensive lineman porn.
Yeah, I talked to Dominic in the locker room last night after the game, before I got chased out by the PR staff. What a great kid, man! What a great kid! And I'm like, an offensive line, it's like anybody you ask. This is why I don't love the post game locker room in football. Because you're oftentimes asking guys something, you're asking questions about the war, let's just say, and I'm not trying to be insensitive and compare war to football, but I'm just making for this comparison. When you're asking somebody who's been camped out in a trench, how's it going? I don't know, man. I saw 3 or 4 rats run by, and I keep shooting, and I keep hearing bullets coming whizzing over our head. I'm maybe the wrong guy to ask. I don't have a bird's eye view on this. Well, it's the same thing. It's like you ask football players about a game after the game. A lot of times, especially if they're in the trenches, they have no idea. They have no idea, because they're just doing their thing, and they're not. They're doing their cog in the wheel. So a lot of times you got to ask them in a couple days after they watch the film. But I said to him, just off your recollection of the game tonight, Dominic, is what play would be the play that you can't wait to watch with the group in the film session? What's the one play that you're kind of, oh man, I can't, I hope that play is not on the film. And he's like, my best play was the one that got called back on the touchdown run. I had a reach block and I had to really get out there, and I got out there on the linebacker and I got him on the ground. He goes, I think that was probably my best play because it was a difficult block and I got out there. And I think that's kind of why he's special, Damon, is that they really emphasize mobility this year. Kingston, Nugent, and especially Pooney, all graded out exceptionally highly on all the movement, tests at the combine. So they obviously went for guys who could really move. The Niners want O linemen that can move. But yeah, no, I think Pooney, I think you're right. I think this might be the year of the offensive line. I don't know if you saw any of the Chargers Raiders, but Joe Alt did a job on Max Crosby. And this is Joe Alt in his very first start. This is the Notre Dame Mongo tackle that went to the Chargers with the 5th pick overall. So you have Joe Alt in LA with the Chargers. You have JC Latham, who just looks like a monster, who's playing right tackle right now for the Tennessee Titans. Fashanu with the Jets is on the bench, but and Fuaga's been hurt for the Saints. But yeah, I think you're right. I think, and Amarius Mims has been hurt. But when you look really closely at the end of the year, Brian Thomas, I think of the LSU kid, and Neighbors, the 2 LSU receivers are probably going to have big years, and they'll probably be up for it. But
after 1 week,
Dominic Pooney, a plug and play starter, neutralized. And he even said it. And this kid has a real sense of history. I'm like, hey man, not a bad way to start. And he's like, yeah, Monday Night Football against Quinnen Williams and Javon Kinlaw on Monday night with the nation watching to start my career. He's like, not a bad way to start. So yeah, great kid. I love that kid.
Like, subscribe, and the next time you're thinking about a nice little dinner, hit that Highway 1, get yourself down to Half Moon Bay and go to Sam's Chowder House. Larry, let's go to the tape. Let's go to the tape. You know,
Baldy's breakdowns.
Yeah, seriously. Okay, I'm going to break this down. Okay, so you're in Half Moon Bay. You're at Sam's Chowder House. Look at the bussing of that table. It comes nice and clean for you. As you can see, the staff, easy to identify, as is the lobster roll. You see your target right there. You hit the target. Look at the shellfish and the rice is working together in that paella. That claw's got a cannon, measured very well at the combine, and the view is undefeated. An absolutely undefeated view from Sam's Chowder House, and there's your Brucey Baldy breakdown.
Okay, no, wait, I gotta take my try at it. Here we go. Here's Krug's breakdown, the film breakdown from Sam's. Boom, boom, patio time. Boom. Look at that. Look at that guy with the hat. Oh my God. Look at these guys. Look at the staff. They're in abundance. Oh, wow. Unbelievable. The paella. Oh my God. Chipino. The Chipino, ladies and gentlemen. Boom. Boom. Mic drop.
So you used one of my favorite words. You said, look at the abundance of rushing yards, the abundance of rushing lanes for Jordan Mason last night, the abundance of just daylight against a team that is specifically known for giving running backs very little daylight. If I'm the Jets, the thing that I'm most concerned about today is the strength of our team got worked. I think that there's some positives to take away from the Jets, too. Like, you know, hey, Aaron Rodgers officially made that offense a little bit better. Aaron Rodgers had moments you even saw. And again, Larry, you were at the game. You weren't watching on TV, so we get a better view than you do of some things. Aaron Rodgers uncorked an absolute laser across the middle for, you know, yet another third down conversion when they went and scored their first touchdown of the game. Garrett Wilson was just eating the Niners alive on third downs there and keeping that drive alive. And Rodgers, you could see him. He had that like, whew, I'm fucking back, like smile on his face. Like you could tell like, okay, my arm does what it used to do. He was satisfied with himself. And I think Aaron Rodgers is going to make the Jets better, but their biggest red light is the strength of their team got exposed and got beaten. The 49ers had over 100 rushing yards in between the tackles like that. I don't know if that happened against the Jets at all last year.
Well, wait a second here. The Jets last year, I mean, the Niners did what exactly I said they were going to do. Exactly what they were going to do. I said the Jets have the awesome defense. Pro Football Focus, Damon, ranked their defense last year number 1 in the NFL. When you look at their metrics and their numbers and you went through their, the statistical profile of the New York Jets, it was all top 5, except when it came time for what do they do against the run. And against the run, they were 25th against the run. So it was going to be a run game plan. I'm looking at their stats. They last year, this is what they were defensively. Amazing if you think about it. They were 3rd in total D. They were 2nd in pass D. And they were 25th in rush D. So the 49ers, whether it was CMC or Mason, they were going to run it at this Jets team. And I thought that was the way to go. I thought with Kinlaw being, the big bodies of Kinlaw and the other guy they added this offseason, the gigantic tackle, that they would have, plugged up the middle a little bit and they would be better against the run. But no, 4.7 a carry for the team, 5.3 a carry for Mason. Purdy got 1 run for 11 yards. Debo had some hard runs. He definitely took one for the team last night. I don't think that's sustainable over the course of the year, that he's going to take the kind of hits that he took last night repeatedly. But you know what? They got through this game and they absolutely delivered a message to the New York Jets. And the beautiful part about it is, Shanahan's always loves, balance and this and that. This was not kind of the balanced game. This was a run-heavy plan, 38 runs. I mean, when you go for 4.7 a carry, that's always impressive. When you do it on nearly 40 runs and pile up close to 200 yards, you just steamrolled a team. So, I mean, when you think that it's Quinnen Williams, gigantic Javon Kinlaw, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald, those guys. I mean,
Johnson's name. I mean, I
didn't even hear Quinnen's name. Quinnen had 6 tackles, but I didn't hear his name.
The only Jets names I heard.
Oh, he had 3 tackles. I should say.
Aaron Rodgers, Breece Hall, and and Garrett. You know, I mean, that's it. The 49ers did a good job laying down on the Jets' best players all night long. They really did. And they were
3 sacks, 4 hits on the quarterback. That's good numbers. Those are good numbers.
They were in control all night. They controlled that game pretty much all night. And, you know, Larry, you and I, right before we came on, we said, we're not going to clobber you with stats. Like sports talk radio, whatever this is on YouTube, like it's evolved a little. Like you used to come out the next day and you would pour through a box score like it was a wine list and you're trying to figure out what pairs well with what course. Like everyone's got the same access to the stats that we have. So we're not going to clobber you with stats here on the show, but there are a couple things. First of all, do you have any complaints?
Do I have any complaints?
A singular
about this morning show?
No, not this show. Do you have any complaints about me, Larry? Am I doing anything wrong? Do you have any complaints from last night's game? Because my complaint department, I think, is about as tiny as it's been as a week one, you know, observer. And this is coming after, you know, they've lost some week one games recently. I got no real complaints. You know, didn't love not going for it on 4th and 1, but I understand, and I don't really have a problem.
I didn't understand it. What do you explain it to me? Because I didn't understand it. They went from going up 2 scores to being up 2 scores. I mean, you could have put the thing away with a touchdown. You're right there. Step on the fucking jugular, man. Go for the touchdown.
I think they might have, but right before that play, the 4th down play that they didn't run, they kicked the field goal on was run. You had Trent Williams coming off the field. Trent Williams was coming off the field. He went back to the locker room. He got an IV. Lisa Salters told us, you know, he's not hurt. He just needs some IV there. And I think had he been in the game, the play is maybe different. I would look at that as the other way. Like maybe Trent can't play anymore tonight. Let's go for the kill here. Let's go up 3 scores and put this thing on ice. Hey, that's fair. I mean, that's fair. Yeah. If you want to put that as in your complaint department, I'm not going to argue that that's your complaint because I thought it was a little odd in the moment. But I also thought it was a survivable moment. If you just elect to take the field goal here, I get it. Like, it's no problem. You've controlled the game. I also thought even if you went for it on 4th and 1 and came up short, you're leaving the Jets with 95 yards, and that's a good thing too. So that's it. I think the only other element of any complaint department that I would have about this game, and it's funny to say because we always talked about like use Jordan Mason more. Jordan Mason got overused in this game. Like Kyle treated
him, with overused,
but Kyle treated him like a rental car. Like you treat your rental car, you smack your rental car around. You don't give a shit about your rental car. You just, you know, you drive those things hard. You put it away wet. And you don't give a shit.
Stealing that, by the way, later today. Kyle used Jordan Mason like a rental car. That's good. That is good.
He did. He used him like
he drove it hard.
I'm never going to get into this car again. I really don't care about, you know, its 100-mile checkup or anything like that. Fuck it. We're just going to roll until the wheels come off. I thought that there was an opportunity to get Patrick Taylor a little bit of run just to take a little edge off of Mason. I mean, Mason had a workload that he hasn't seen since high school. Mason had a workload. He had 28 carries for a career high 147 yards. He had his touchdown. His 28 carries, by the way, is the most. Now, this is where you're like, Jesus, Kyle, back off just a little. Mason's 28 carries is a career high for him and the most by any 49er running back since Frank Gore toted the rock 31 times against Cleveland like a million years ago. So, I mean, Kyle hasn't even used Christian McCaffrey as liberally as he decided to drive his rental car last night. So I thought that maybe is a complaint department. But again, it was a spectacular night for Mason. He's no worse for wear. You know, he's been waiting for a night in a moment like this. And so that's great. But that's it. My complaint departments are that 4th down play, kinda, and maybe Mason was overused a little, especially if there is some skullduggery going on here and McCaffrey's got an injury that's a little bit more serious than they want us to believe, and he is going to be out in week 2, why burn this guy's candle wick all the way down to the nub in week 1? I just thought, come on, Kyle, you know.
Okay, let's lay all of our cards on the table. I had many concerns about this 49er team coming into the year. My many concerns, and I voiced them on all these streams and videos that I do all the time. I wasn't really sure about the offensive line. Wasn't really sure if they had upgraded the offensive line, you know, or really upgraded Damon, either line. That was like my main question personnel wise. Is the D line better than it was last year? I know it's different. Is it better? Is the O line better? It's pretty much the same except for Pooney. Is it better? So I think that was my first question, and I think we got the answer. I think we got both answers. I think the O line is better. I think Dominic Pooney is not just adding a decent player. I think Dominic Pooney is going to play in the Niner offensive line for a decade. He's going to be a really good Niner offensive lineman for years to come. So since they added why is it so big in basketball when you get like some great player in the draft? Because there's only 5 fucking guys in the court. And why is it so big when you add one really good offensive lineman? Because there's only 5 linemen. So you're like 1/5 better. You're 20% better if you've upgraded. So they upgraded their O-line. They're better on the O-line. But the other question, and I thought it was a fair question, and I don't think I saw an answer all summer in practice or in the games, is Collins and Elliott and Floyd better than the guys that they just, got rid of? And I don't know that we had that answer until last night. Last night, Malik Collins was monster. And then the other major question I had outside of, the one I didn't like answered was I didn't think Campbell looked like a suitable replacement for Greenlaw, but I'm a really high grader because Greenlaw is that special. But I didn't love what I saw from Campbell. But the other main question I had was, I'll
say this about Campbell. He's got the longest dreads I've seen in the NFL in years. I mean,
they're
those
very
are coming down to the middle of his number. They're not coming down to his nameplate. He's got like Crystal Gale level dreadlocks going on. He's ready for, Bob Marley Tough Gong Radio with those.
Yeah, well, he's lucky that he's the attacker, the linebacker, not the running back. Otherwise, he'd be pulled down by that thing. But yes, Devondre Campbell's easy to identify. But unfortunately, last night it was easy to identify that he seemed like he'd overrun some plays, and I just didn't think his run fits were that pure or that true. But the other question that I had, a major question, was what's Sorensen? What's Staley? Staley's defense allowed 63 points to the Raiders last year, and Sorensen has never been a defensive coordinator. I really liked the game that Sorensen called. Now, I haven't gotten into the rewatch yet. I will as soon as this stream's over. But I just got a sense that the front and the plan up front was very much tied to the plan on the back end. I think Sorensen might be kind of a sleeper addition. We did our awards the night before, and I gave him my assistant coach of the year across the league. I think Nick Sorensen is going to be that no-name defensive coordinator that steps in and is like, wow, look at this guy. Never even heard of this guy. And the defense is playing great under him. So one weekend, I liked what I saw from Sorensen.
So, is he going to be the next assistant coach who is leaving the nest for his own head coaching job?
Yes, at some point.
It will find out, right? But we're a long way from there, and that went well. The word that Steve Kerr uses an awful lot is connectivity. It felt like there was connectivity between the front line of the defense, the linebackers, and the secondary. It all went and played pretty damn well together. It complemented each other, and this is the kind of thing that you can't see in training camp because the defensive linemen aren't allowed to go live in training camp quite like this. So you don't really know what you got until you put it out there on the field in week 1. And I was pretty impressed, all things considered. As choppy and weird and aggravating as a preseason as this was, with complaint departments being stacked with injuries that prevented guys from getting ready for this season, on both sides of the ball, that was a pretty impressive debut, all things considered. It really was. Just to get back to Malik Collins. I mean, when the 49ers traded for him, I was told by someone who's been covering the Houston Texans forever that the Niners just got one of the steals of the century. Like, they didn't understand it. The media back in Houston was like, why do you not find, we talk about the imaginary cap. Why don't you move your imaginary cap around to keep that guy? Because he's a monster against the run, and he's better than any number that you've seen attached to him in a Pro Football Focus indicates. It's use your eyes, not the stats, to believe in Malik Collins. Fumble recovery. He was all in the backfield. He made it hard on Breece Hall to find the sliver of daylight between the guards at any point in time. If Breece Hall wasn't bumping it outside, he really wasn't going anywhere last night. There was not a lot of room in the middle, and we've seen the 49ers last year get gashed up the middle. And I don't know if that's Malik Collins getting it done, Jordan Elliott getting it done, Hargrave coming in and playing better, but it worked. Whatever it was, it worked. Again, I haven't seen the game either. I'm going to rewatch it this afternoon. But man, good debut, right? I mean, there's not much to say other than that went about as well as it could possibly go, especially with Christian McCaffrey not even being involved. And maybe the single most impressive thing about the 49ers last night, and it's funny, Larry, it was equally impressive. And at the same time, I also saw the offseason rust and a lack of rhythm, that was probably most exemplified by Brandon Ayuk and his drops and all that. If that gets better, what could this offense really be? And that will get better. It is going to improve. They are going to find a rhythm. That passing game is going to get better than it was last night. Sauce Gardner's a fucking stud, by the way. I mean, he's A-plus corner, A-plus, maybe the best in football. And he had a really good bat down on a Brandon Ayuk catch attempt that was perfect. But the 49ers, against a vaunted defense that has the respect of the league, they scored a touchdown or field goal on 8 consecutive possessions. 8 consecutive possessions, by the way, is the longest possession scoring streak by any 49er offense since 1978. No,
I mean, if you give Brock Purdy time to throw, he's going to carve you up. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he completed 65% against a fantastic secondary, as you said. DJ Reed, Carter, and Sauce might be the best trio they'll face. Quinnen is definitely among the best defensive tackles they'll face. This is one of the best defenses the Niners will face. And yet they gave Brock Purdy tons of time, and he sat back there and, did his thing.
Yeah, by the way, did you hear what I just said? They scored 8 consecutive times in a football game for the first time since 1978, and they're not even in midseason form yet.
Not midseason form. I mean, Trent. How great's Trent Williams? I mean, he played exceptional football in this game. A lot of people were like, "Well, is Trent going to be able to go?" He played 70 snaps. He got an 81.6 Pro Football Focus grade, second only to Brock Purdy as far as the highest graded 49ers. The 5 highest graded 49ers on offense: Purdy, Trent, Pooney, JJ, and then McKivitz. Those were the top 5 offense. Top 5 defense: Fred, Bosa, Mooney, Yadam, and Jordan Elliott. How about that? Jordan Elliott, who I talked to last Saturday. Man, what a great individual, what a great personality Jordan Elliott is, man. You should definitely, if you're ever down there, go talk to Jordan Elliott, man. He's a phenomenal interview. And then the lowest graded Niner players on offense were Ronnie Bell, Chris Conley, Eric Saubert, and the lowest graded defenders, Flanagan Fowles, which I think is kind of a bad one because he had a couple of really nice plays, including a pick. Leonard Floyd got a low grade, and Demo Lenore got a low grade. So I'm a little surprised by all those three, because I thought those 3 guys played particularly well, actually.
This is one of those use your eyes, what do you know, Pro Football Focus grades. Interesting, but not the compass that points true north all the time. Because I thought Lenore played really well last night. I thought Lenore was good. Of course, he gave it. Look, here's the thing: he's going up against Aaron Rodgers and a total stud wide receiver. He's going to give up some catches.
Right. Garrett Wilson is awesome.
Yes. So, the whole, you didn't have a good game if you had any catches against you. That's fantasy football. That doesn't happen in this league against guys that are that good. I thought it was a very impressive debut evening for the 49ers. And again, we told you that we weren't going to clobber you with stats, but I got a mouthful here. Larry, just listen to this.
Okay.
So I follow on Twitter OptaStats. It's a information thing. And so the 49ers are the only team in the Super Bowl era to get a 200-yard passing game, a 125-yard rushing game, a 50-yard receiving game, and an interception from 4 players who were all drafted 200th or later, or not even drafted at all.
Yeah. So Purdy, your quarterback, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick in the draft. Jordan Mason, your running back, undrafted. JJ, your wide receiver, 7th-round pick out of the University of Tennessee, Jawan Jennings. And then Flanagan Fowles, who was a safety at U of A and is now a linebacker for the Niners. That's it's funny. It's like somebody asked me the other day, "Is John Lynch? What do you think of John Lynch?" And before he could even say it, he's like, he blew that Trey Lance trade, and then the McGlinchey pick, and the Kinlaw pick, and the Solomon Thomas pick, and the Reuben Foster pick, and sometimes when you get asked a question and people start throwing their opinion, you start getting kind of like, okay, now you're asking me a question, but now you're giving me the argument for one of the sides. So I'm like, well, it's funny. That is true, but I guess I could push back with George Kittle on day 3. Brock Purdy's on day 3, all kinds of guys after the draft. DJ Jones was day 3. Fred Warner was day 3. I mean, yes, Lynch has missed on day 1 for sure, but he's hit on day 3. How do you evaluate it? And it's like, it's a fair question. It really is.
If I may bring up Ralph a little early in the show.
Sure.
2 things can be equally true, Larry. And look, the 49ers have had some of the biggest high-profile early draft pick strikeouts that you could possibly have. But in the part of the draft that fewer people pay attention to, or any GM really gets credit for when they nail picks, I mean, this team is hitting line drive doubles and stand-up triples in late-round picks everywhere. I mean, they really do. So, yeah, there have been some massive high-profile swing and a misses draft picks, but all the stuff that gets lost in the conversation and undrafted guys that have impacted this team in a positive way sort of make up for it. They really do. They have massive mistakes, but boy, they have an awful lot of pretty good selections down the road too. So
I mean, Lynch, I would say Lynch has done a really good job as the face of the franchise, right? He's done a really good, this is a team that didn't have a very good face before Lynch showed up. But I did look at, imagine, just dare to dream for 1 second. They drafted Solomon Thomas, Reuben Foster, Mike McGlinchey, Javon Kinlaw, and they used their 2021, 2022, and 2023 firsts all on Trey Lance. They could have, Damon, could have. Now, forget Mahomes. I guess we could throw Mahomes in there. But I would say CMC instead of Solomon Thomas. I'll throw CMC. They could have had, instead of Solomon Foster, McGlinchey, Kinlaw, and Trey Lance. Imagine if instead they had drafted Christian McCaffrey, Buda Baker, Minka Fitzpatrick, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Breece Hall, and Sam Laporta. Now, I realize every team in the NFL can do this exercise, but for the 49ers, considering how good they are right now, if you added one of those players, you would be a dynasty in the making, or the hands down consensus pick. If you gave the Niners today any of those guys, Jamar Chase, Sam Laporta, Justin Jefferson, Minka Fitzpatrick, Buda Baker, like, they would almost hands down be considered the best team. They could have had all of those guys instead of the guys they drafted. So if they can just get a little bit more proficient at the top of the draft in round 1, I think that their free agency, their post draft, their day 2, day 3 draft, you know what I mean? They're gonna win. They're gonna break through and win that Super Bowl if they can hit on some first round picks.
By the way, are we ready to move Jake Moody into the pretty good draft pick pile? Jake Moody converted each of his 6
looked good last night.
46, 51, 31, 53, 23, and 42. He dinked one in, but it worked. Both of his point after touchdowns were good. His 6 field goals is a career high, ties a franchise record for the most field goals made in a single game. I mean, he's pretty damn good. I know that everybody was just looking for something to complain about all last year. And I'm telling you, he missed a few field goals that hurt. He also had a pretty good rookie year for a kicker. And, he missed a point after touchdown in the Super Bowl. He also hit some 50-yarders in the Super Bowl. He's good. He's a good kicker.
Well, he's got a big leg. A big leg. And if he can just get consistent, I mean, come on. What are we at? None of us should act like we know anything about this. It's just like, hey, does it go through those uprights? If it does, he's good. If it doesn't, he's not.
Not good.
And last night he did, and he's good. And if suddenly they don't go through the uprights, he's no longer good.
It's a
and
pass
kickers
fail grade.
Become good and go away from being good. But I will say this: you don't want to use a third-round pick on a kicker. But it's always great to have a good kicker. You know what I mean? You don't want to use a fourth-round pick on a punter, but it's always great to have a good punter. So the Niners did both. They do have a very good kicker and a very good punter. So, and they're both young.
And given that this team has had a little bit of a blind spot on special teams, that's good. I think that's pretty good. Kyle clearly has made a decision. He ain't here for no hybrid kickoffs. He's telling Jake Moody, put that thing into the stands. And that.
Why would anybody be here for anything? Why would anybody not do that?
I don't know.
I don't know. We saw DJ. You saw DJ Dallas take one back. You don't have to allow that. You can kick the ball through the back of the end zone, and all you're giving compared to last year is 5 extra yards.
Yeah.
When I saw the rules written down, I'm like, okay, maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I just got to see it. So then I watched it for a few days, and I'm like, then finally I just went to the presser, and I'm like, Kyle, I know this seems like a stupid question, but can't you just kick it through the back of the end zone every time? And if since last year you got the ball at the 25, and this year it's get the ball at the 30, why would anybody risk anything? Isn't this much ado about nothing? And he kind of was like, yeah. I mean, it's like,
don't give away the game plan, Larry.
I mean, it's like, yeah. And there were people that argued that. I think Sean Payton and a couple other coaches argued that it should be a little bit, they should change, it should be more punitive. Let's just say if you kick it out the back of the end zone, if you're really going to incentivize people to kick it into this landing area and make this play entertaining, but you better incentivize them. Otherwise why would they ever do it?
Look, they're going to have to take the kicker and move the ball back to like the 10-yard line if they really want this to be a league of returns. And if it's going to be a league of returns, make it into a league of returns. You want more crazy things happening and unexpected big plays, then move that kickoff. What I would do is completely eliminate all this hybrid bullshit kickoff and just go back to the way it was. I mean, like to me, it's I don't think there's an awful lot there because teams won't let an awful lot come from it because all the smart coaches are going to eliminate the threat by just kicking it through the back of the end zone. By the way, speaking of big leg kickers, Larry,
yeah,
more 50-yard field goals in 1 week of NFL football this week than any other week in the history of football. I think I saw that one from Josh Dubow on Twitter last night. So big leg kickers. How about this? There's no such thing in this league as a small armed quarterback. They all got big arms, some bigger than others, but they're all pretty damn big. And there is no such thing as like the little leg kicker. And
well, what's interesting too is that you watch college football on Saturday and then pro football on a Sunday. I don't remember the disparity being this great between the college kicker and the pro kicker. The college kicker's a circus who can't make anything. The pro kicker's the greatest thing that ever walked into an NFL stadium, and these guys are rock stars and can connect from 60 plus every day. It's like it's crazy. I mean, a 55-yard field goal in the NFL is like, that's money. That's in.
You're right. The 55-yard field goal is what we used to look at the 30-yard field goal now. You just
right.
He's got
but
to
in
make
college
at the time.
A 35-yard field goal is like a coin flip. Because these guys, it's like, you don't know. Maybe it's a bad kicker. Maybe it's it's a kid.
It's a kid.
It's a kid who paid for a keg cup last night. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? And he's stressed about the kick, but he's really stressed about his sociology final on Tuesday. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a kid. But I've never seen this big of a disparity. I watched that college games all weekend. The kickers are just a crapshoot. In the NFL, we have gotten so used to, it's like, oh, here they go for this kick. It's like, are you kidding me? Unless it's like Soldier Field in December, it's right down the middle.
By the way, you're so right. You're so right about the sociology. The sociology is the ultimate. I'm a student athlete major. What do you study? Nothing really. We just
the study of society. My main job is I go to the mall and I people watch. It's my final. I went to the mall and I people watched.
Dude, go to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk if you want to people watch. It's a freaking carnival down there. Yes, it really was.
Yes, it is.
Larry, let's. I see that we got an awful lot of super chats. Instead of saving them all to an end,
let's hit them right here.
Would like to be acknowledged right now. Let's jump into them.
Let's go rapid fire through the supers. Joseph Ernberg.
Speed brick.
He says, "Good morning, guys. Could CMC and Mason be our version of Gibbs and Montgomery?" Yes and yes. And I've been saying it for fucking 2 years. What was it going to take to get this kid out there?
They're a better version of that. So if you like Gibbs and Montgomery behind that offensive line, wait and see what these guys can be.
Really? No, I mean, it's pretty close. Gibbs, Montgomery, CMC, Mason. I don't know. That's a coin flip right there.
No, neither.
You can't go wrong. Let's just say you can't go wrong.
Neither one of those guys is in the conversation with Christian McCaffrey. Neither one.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I do love you're hitting on two of my favorites in Gibbs and Montgomery.
Okay.
Scott Donald says national press and even Nick Wright praising Purdy, Mason, and the 49ers. I guess pigs do fly. That's very good. Well, hey, man, if you bring hate today, you're a hater. Ain't no doubt about that. Nathan McFadden, pass intended for Ayuk broken up by tree branch. I didn't. Is he talking about Sauce Gardner?
I don't know.
Tree branch. I don't know, but I will say this: Ayuk looked like a guy who held out all summer. He didn't look very good. He caught a couple balls. He just didn't. He's just not. He's not in midseason form.
So, have you seen Peyton Manning's? So when Eli Manning and Peyton Manning got Bill Belichick on the Manning cast and they got, Brandon Ayuk laying out for the catch that he missed. And you could just see that Peyton Manning was like triggered by this. He's like, this is why you get your contract done and you get your ass into camp. This is why you come into camp. He's like, you sign your contract, get your butt in camp, catch that ball on week 1. He's like, you can't wait till week 3 to catch balls like that. You need to catch that ball week 1. Peyton Manning was triggered by that whole thing last night.
Yep, no doubt. Mason Quawk says, I'm giving offensive rookie of the year to Joe Alt, bro. Bodied up Max Crosby. Yeah, I watched that Raiders Seahawks game, or Raiders Chargers game. I put money on the Chargers and the Seahawks against the Raiders and the Broncos, and that worked out well. But Joe Alt did have a really, really nice day against Max Crosby. Also, I will say this: both those Raider tight ends are good.
Yeah, look, Joe Alt got pretty much ballyhooed as one of the can't miss draft picks of this last draft.
Blue chipper, man.
There's an expectation for him to be excellent, and going up against Matt Crosby, he showed that he's got that in him. Dominic Pooney is a 3rd rounder that the entire NFL could have had, and for whatever reason, he falls to the Niners, and this guy played like a top 20 pick.
He's great.
He really did.
You know what I said to him yesterday at his locker, Damon? I said, hey, man, ain't no Quinnen Williams hanging out at Kansas games these days, huh? And he's like, no, sir. He's like, give me the no, sir, yes, sir. I'm like, sir, come on, bro.
Is my dad standing behind me?
I'm like, yeah. Can you drop the sir? But he is a great kid.
Have you gotten what Krueger from anyone yet? Have you been Mr. Krueger by anybody?
Sure. Yes.
Oh my God, grab a cane, old man.
Yeah, when I get the Mr. Krueger, that really gets me. David E says the problem is how badly the Niners handled JP. That's the problem. The kid should have gotten the game ball. Well, we don't know that, guys. I know what you're saying, though. I agree. I basically agree. Somebody changed that kid's disposition. What that thing should have been, if I was Kyle Shanahan, is, bro, be careful about what you're saying and what you're, who you're saying it to and what you're saying. There's rules about all these things and there's protocols about all these things, and we can't be breaking any of these rules. But screw all that. I love you, big boy. That was the game of your life. Here's the fucking game ball. You're starting in Minnesota, and you're a huge part of this team. And God bless you, kid. Have a great night. Go out there and tie one on, but be safe. Get home safe, and we'll see it. We'll see you Wednesday. But hell of a game, kid. Hell of a game, because that, and maybe that's exactly what he said, but we will never know. But you know what I'm saying? That kid he walked to the podium like he had been scolded. He should have been scolded potentially, but he also should have been loved up on, because he was literally the best player on the field last night. So
I think it's a failure of 49er PR, who's ever in charge of team-wide communication, making sure everybody's on the same page. They drop the ball more than anyone. A player asked a question is going to give an honest answer. And, I can't think of a singular Jordan Mason interview or media moment before last night. So
he hasn't had a lot of experience,
right.
And the other guys who do are very, very savvy.
Right. Not a lot.
These
of
other guys are very savvy. You don't realize how savvy a Debo is, how savvy a Juice is, how savvy a CMC is, or a Kittle. These guys get asked these brutally tough questions. They're just a little bit more experienced in how to handle them. And
let me tell you, Niners media, I love you guys. The Niners media department has been very good to me. Every time I ask for access, without a radio station behind me, they say, come on in, Damon, you're vetted. We believe in you. And I appreciate that. You cannot let Debo go up to the podium wearing a hat that says fuck on it.
Did he?
Did he? Big truck driver hat says fuck. You can't do that, man. Come on. It's just somebody be like, Debo, leave the hat in the locker. Fuck.
I didn't see that. I was there. Raymond says now it's Christian McMason. Sure. Sounds awful. Sounds like next month's centerfold in Playboy. Did you see Miss October, Christian Miss McMason? Oh
McMason,
my God,
man. She's something else.
Christian McMason. Batman 29. Thoughts on Debo's runs up the middle? Well, I love that one. I mean, didn't he have one in the second half where he went for like 20 yards? Was it third quarter? That there was one on a key third down I thought was outstanding. I'll say this for Debo. Debo took one for the team. Ayuk held out, wasn't ready to contribute in week one. CMC had an injury, and they had to lean on the kid. Well, what did that tell Debo? That told Debo, or Shanahan told Debo, hey, man, we're going to need you to run the ball more from scrimmage today. You're going to have to take one for the team, and he did. So,
well, he had 8 carries for 23 yards, 2.9 average, which means he's probably going to be getting the ball less. I mean, here's the thing. Debo was really good when he was catching the entire league off guard. His longest run last night was 6 yards. So I didn't think he was particularly effective at all running the ball. Now he had the rushing touchdown. And oh, by the way, Debo, 5 passes, 54 yards through the air, 8 carries, 23 yards on the ground, and the touchdown. His rushing touchdown was the 20th of his career, which is the most by any player whose primary position is wide receiver since 1960. Yeah. So Debo really is in a class photo of one, just the ability to, be a wide receiver and a goal line level back kind of at the same time. But
you got to set up the kind of runs that they utilize for him. I mean, you got to set up an end around, and it has to be set up properly.
And the thing is everyone's looking for it. Like the minute Debo's in motion, it's not like, don't pay attention to him. He's a decoy. No, Debo could get the ball at any time, and teams know it, and they're reacting to it. So
yeah,
it's harder to sneak past. It's harder to sneak past any team in football looking for it because everyone's looking for it.
No question. But the guy's in great shape right now, and it's good to see. We got this one from Harold McAllister. Hey, Harold, this is Krug. Was that the horrible trick play they tried to run during the training camp practice? Did not work in the game either. Yeah, and there, that's so funny. There was a trick play in practice, and the media people asked, they said, hey, guys, could you not report on this trick play that we just all witnessed here? And we said, yeah. And then some TV guy who didn't realize, and nobody got to him. Hey, how about that trick play that you guys practice where you did? And all the media relations people, Damon, are like, are you kidding me? They're like rolling their eyes. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if it was the exact trick play, but it didn't work.
Well, and again, I saw a couple people as soon as that play didn't work, they were like, "Oh, Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust Brock Purdy. Kyle Shanahan doesn't trust his offensive line. Kyle Shanahan, dude." Not every fucking play goes for first down. Like they tried to razzle dazzle. It didn't razzle. It didn't dazzle. Neither happened. It got stuffed. It got eaten up. And that happens sometimes in football. Had that play popped for a 30-yard gain, everyone would have been like, "Oh, Kyle, he's fucking got it." You know?
Here's a better response. Hey, dumb motherfucker. You're ripping a coach that has an offense that just put 32 on the board against one of the best defensive teams in pro football at full tilt.
Right.
Full Sauce, full Quinnen, full DJ, full Mosley, full everybody, and 32. So Kyle Shanahan's a moron. Kyle Shanahan's a jackass. Kyle Shanahan's this. Kyle Shanahan can't do that. Kyle Shanahan's offense without Christian McCaffrey, but people are always, "Oh, well, what's Brock going to do if you take Christian away?" Krueger, you're always talking about Brock. You're not talking about what his stats were when Christian was added. Like, if you took Christian away, suddenly Brock is just shit on a shingle. Well, guess what? Brock's pretty good too. And they got other guys. And the line that's been ridiculed played pretty damn well against a really good line. And you know what? Shanahan, who's this ridiculed offensive coach, he's a pretty good coach. You know what I mean? So
what you're telling me is Kyle sucks and the offense was bad on a night where they had 400 yards of offense and punted once?
Right.
Is your argument?
Against the Jets, who PFF says is the best defensive team in pro football.
Right. If your argument was that wasn't good, you shouldn't be making arguments.
James Foster, Debo got more carries than I would like to see. I think Shanahan would agree with that. I think Debo probably would agree with that. Cody Van Dyke, Krug, you were making fun of the Steelers for kicking 5 field goals. The Niners settled for 6 and no comment. Oh, I never liked 6 field goals. I ripped them as in my seat for not going for it on the 4th and 1. They absolutely should have. No doubt in my mind. I will say this. I'm a little enamored with the fact that Moody, as a young kicker, has improved and gotten more consistent this summer. So I caught up in that. I was just, the one thing is the Niners are a proven offensive entity that can score 30 a game and has virtually every single game since Brock Purdy has been the quarterback. They've gone for 30 in almost every single game. They don't just average 30. They go for 30 weekly. The Steelers are shit. The Steelers have terrible offense. They've got 3 good young offensive linemen, but 2 disastrous quarterbacks. Najee's a great kid, and great guy, but I think he's probably a little bit overrated as a running back. They're a 1 receiver team in Pickens. He doesn't block at all. I don't know. I mean,
there's a big difference between 5 field goals and that's it, or six field
goals as part of 32 points
as well. Exactly. Yeah. So that's a little bit different. If all they had was field goals, we'd be, I'm sure, a bit more critical of it. But again, it was points are at a premium against the New York Jets, right? And they took the points when they needed them, and it all worked out. I mean, they controlled the football game all night long. The only time where I thought, the Jets might climb back into this is when they settled for that field goal late at the end of the first quarter. And, Kyle was looking for that wraparound, so he burnt too much of the clock, I think, and then had to rush a few plays in to get that last-minute field goal. But, Matt Mayoko brought this up. I thought that this was pretty interesting last night, that let me see. Let me find this again here. Where is it? I'm sorry. I should have had this before I started talking.
That's okay. Let me read this one from David here. He says, when did Kinlaw become a good run stopper? He was second team on the Niners, and he's starting for the vaunted Jets D. He put on 30 pounds of weight. He started for the Niners last year, by the way. Kinlaw started a lot of games last year for the Niners, I believe, at defensive tackle. Did he not? I know they have Hargrave and Armstead, but I know Kinlaw played a ton of snaps last year. And he's
last night. From Mayoko last night, Larry.
Yeah.
From the end of the second quarter to the beginning of the third quarter, the 49ers held the ball for 12 minutes and 32 seconds of game action. The Jets only had 1 snap 4 seconds for a kneel down at the end of the half in between those 49ers possessions. So Kyle, like that's what Kyle's dreams are made out of. He that wraparound last score of the first half, first score of the second half, killing clock, time of possession,
keep away.
That is what Kyle wants to do, and he got that done last night again with a backup running back.
That was his dream scenario time-wise. He controlled the clock all the way into the break, gave them only a chance to kneel down, and then got the ball at the beginning of the third quarter, extended scoring drive, created that separation on the scoreboard, and the Jets never closed. I think overall Kyle did a nice job of the game calling. I thought Brock did a nice job at taking care of the football against a pressure defense. He didn't seem like he was under that much pressure. The Niner O-line did a tremendous job. Obviously, Mason did an incredible job. JJ had a number of big catches. Collins looked good up front. I thought Collins looked really, really good.
It felt like the score was a little closer at half than it really needed to be, but that's the situation that they were in. And my fear was, okay, so the Niners are going to come out of the locker room, have a 3-and-out, Jets going to get the ball back, and then they score, and now, it's a football game again. Well, that's when Kyle came out of the locker room with the best drive of the night. 11-play, 70-yard drive to open the second half, and that was the control point of the entire game. The 49ers never let the Jets off the mat really after that. They controlled the rest of the game, and it was 23-7 after that huge opening drive of the second half. And so, Brock found a little bit of a rhythm there. I love the fact that they overcame a ton of flags on one of their drives to find pay dirt. So
I think the Jets are overrated, Damon.
I think they're oversold too. They're oversold.
I think the Jets might be the most overrated team in pro football. I was watching the intro to the game, when I got home last night before I dozed off. I'm like, I'll watch the intro and first 5-10 minutes of the game before my eyelids get heavy. It was such a late night last night. But if you watch that pregame show and the lead in, you'd swear it was like a clash of two titans and the game could have gone either direction. It's like the Niners are an iconic team that does that. They do it. They walk the walk. The Jets are a talk the talk only kind of an outfit. What are the Jets haven't won jack forever. Joe Namath is a senior citizen. He guaranteed Super Bowl III. That was 19. That was January of 69. That was the 68 season.
Right. Tony
Kornheiser, neither of us were even alive.
Tony Kornheiser said it best. The Jets and their entire franchise have one thing. Joe Namath running off the field, wagging that finger. That's it. That's all they are. That is the franchise's time capsule highlight, and that's the only one they got.
You could say Gastineau and Klecko and that D-line, but whatever. It's just they're the most overrated team consistently in the NFL, I think. Even more so than the Giants, who are also overrated. But the Jets are just like, people talk about the Jets. Literally smart people, Damon, were talking about the Jets this week, like, hey man, they got a really good defense. Now they get Rodgers back, and they're absolutely a Super Bowl contender.
No, they're not.
I'm like, what? They're absolutely a Super Bowl contender? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Texans existed. I thought the Niners and the Eagles and the Lions existed. It's like, they're not a Super Bowl contender. They've got a great defensive tackle. They've got an awesome long-armed corner. They've got a really awesome receiver. And they've got a nice running back and a good old quarterback. That's it. The rest of that team's just totally forgettable.
Let's finish these super chats. And there are two more players that I think we need to highlight, and we really haven't talked about them yet.
Gold House, does anyone note how trash Jets run D was last year? Yeah, they were 25th in the league. Talked about it all week. Gold House says Lynch saw so much in Purdy, he took him dead last. Well, I don't know that Lynch saw anything in Purdy. It sounded like it was Slowick and Greasy. Matthew, but I'll give Lynch credit. He's smart enough to understand to listen to his guys. Matthew Waring says no injuries is huge. And boy, does Fred fly. Phew. Scott Darnold, appreciate Larry's question during the Mason press session. You tried to pick the kid up. I'm Scott, thank you for noticing. I really did, right? The kid was super down. And it was one of the weirdest press conferences I've ever seen, because I'm staring at a kid who's having the greatest moment of his professional life, and he's down in the dumps like he just ruined the game, like he's Garo Yepremian throwing the ball backwards in the Super Bowl.
Away a huge game. I mean, yeah.
No. You are the star, and you were great, and this is the beginning of greatness, and everybody, it should have been this glorious moment, and it was so weird. So like when it came time for my question, I saw how down he was. I'm like, hey man, you had a hell of a game. I forget exactly what I said, but I'm like, you had a hell of a game, something like that. And he's like, yeah, he just wasn't having it right then, because he had been yelled at and he wasn't in the right frame of mind. But he is a really good kid.
He walked into that media session and he looked out on you, and all he saw was landmines to step on.
And then the first one was a question exactly that he didn't want to hear, which was Mayoko saying, when did you know? And I mean, nothing against Maddie, because Maddie's a pro, but I really don't like, and I'm uncomfortable asking athletes questions about timelines, especially when their job is that they bang heads for a living. Because when you bang heads for a living, your memory and your recall, especially in the moments right after the game, when the rest of us are sitting upstairs just eating a freaking hot dog and some M&Ms, we're thinking clearly, but if you bang your head on another helmet 14 times you may not be thinking clearly. And to be like, what time were you told? And then trying to, kind of figure out some kind of timeline controversy. I just hate it. I hate everything about it. I hate everything about those lines of questioning. I mean, if it's a criminal proceeding, awesome. But if it's just, what time? I mean, I push back on that stuff no matter who asks me those questions. If I get those questions, what time did you stop by Safeway? I don't know. I don't want to get into what time everything was and who did what first. I mean, it's all questions intended for gotcha, and you can say it's not, but it's bullshit. It's all intended for gotcha.
Matt Mayoko is no got you level journalist. He's not there to rub
but
anybody the wrong way.
No,
there was
it's
a story brewing. He wanted to ask a question. He didn't pound on any follow-up questions. He saw.
I'm not saying him, Damon. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying he's the gotcha. I'm saying it kind of feeds into an overall narrative of, well, now that we know it was at this time, then let me think of all these other things. And I'm not saying Matt would, but others would for sure get into that. I mean, we just saw it with the whole Shanahan thing with the party. What time did you know? How much time passed between the call? Then you got the next call. When did you consider going down there? Do you see, it's not, and these questions are not being asked kind of like, just for the heck, for shits and giggles. It's like people are trying to nail shit down and go after people. And I don't, in this situation, I think it's not.
Let's continue with the super chats, and then I want to see a lobster roll, Larry. Let's finish the super chat. Show me a lobster roll. Then there's two more guys we're going to talk about.
Scott Donald says, again, he says, on the broadcast, great line. No one has more fun playing football than Kittle. Troy responds, no one has more fun in life than Kittle. Yeah, Kittle is having a good time in life. Mike Baker, and I wish everybody was like that. Mike Baker says, let's celebrate first post-game wake-up of the year. There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. I like that yellow tie. It looks sharp. Buster at Brodamus says, Jennings hip tackle, Bosa being choked, no flags. Bosa spun into a headlock.
Yeah.
No flags.
No flag. Well, there was so there was an illegal formation, but the fact they weren't picking up a second flag for that, you can't get a more easy to identify hold. I mean, like Nick Bosa gets officiated in a manner in which if I'm Kyle Shanahan, I'm going to start talking about it at every fucking press conference. I'm like Phil Jackson talking about fouls on Michael Jordan. Like I am talking about Nick Bosa being held and officials allowing it to happen. And again, if somebody wants to find me, I'll be happy to write that check right now if it means my boy gets some calls out there. Nick Bosa, Steph Curry, who gets fewer calls?
That offensive lineman hugged Bosa harder than my grandmother hugged me at my college graduation. It was ridiculous.
It was
ridiculous.
So cold. Congratulations, Larry.
It was grandma at the college graduation. Fan man 8102. I think Warner should have been
nicknamed the Predator.
The Predator.
Okay. Well, fan man, thank you very much for the super chat. One of the two guys that I wanted to talk about was Fred Warner. And since he's brought up right now, 7 tackles, a forced fumble. He now has the second most forced fumbles in the history of the San Francisco 49ers, with 12 of them on his still very young career.
Punched it out, too. He really punched it out.
Peanut punched, Larry. Peanut punched it right out. Only
is that from Peanut Tillman, by the way?
Yes, it is. Only Hall of Fame linebacker Patrick Willis has more forced fumbles in the history of the San Francisco 49ers than Fred Warner. So That's great. Special. He is special. He is, I think, quickly drifting into the lane of future Hall of Famer. That's where Fred Warner's going. I think Fred Warner goes to Canton.
I think so too. First of all, it was awesome to see Frank honored last night. Frank needs to go to Canton first. Patrick Willis got in there appropriately so. It always amazes me on the Canton thing, how some guys have amazing careers and can't get in. Other guys have amazing careers that are cut short and they get in. Like Patrick Willis had a great career, but I mean, we'd all agree that it was cut dramatically short because of injury, and yet he still made it in. I mean, he was that great and he deserves to be in. But you know what? If we're going to do that, if we're going to have guys that were great for a short amount of time getting in, then where's the fuck's Roger Craig? Roger Craig was the 1988 NFL Offensive Player of the Year. Roger Craig was the best player on the field when the best 49er team, the 84 Niners, beat the Miami Dolphins in January of 85. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. He probably should have been the MVP. They gave it to Joe Montana. Roger Craig is the first guy to ever reach 1,000. He was an all-pro fullback. He was an all-pro halfback. He was on the all-decade running back list, and he's the only all-decade running back in the last 30 years who is not inducted into the Hall of Fame. I mean, come on. I love Frank and all these other guys, but I mean, I love Frank, but Frank has yards and will get in because he's third all time. But I mean, if you had 1,000 Niner fans here who were old enough to have seen Frank and Craig, I mean, Craig was the better player. Craig was the better blocker. Craig was the better receiver. Craig was the winner. Craig did it on championship teams. Craig was awesome.
He's an evolutionary step in the history of the position. Running backs were expected to do one thing. Roger Craig comes along, and now they're expected to do other things. I mean, he was
changed the game.
Special. He should be in the Hall of Fame, and we all know that. But there's a log jam there at running back. There's a log jam. But a guy like Terrell Davis, who had a very short career, he got into the Hall of Fame. Roger Craig should be in the Hall of Fame. The other guy that I wanted to mention here, Larry, Kyle Juszczyk. Kyle Juszczyk had a hell of a game last night. 2 catches, 40 yards, biggest reception, biggest play from scrimmage all night long for the 49ers. And there were a couple other times where he was just running free and clear with nobody even around him. And, Brock didn't hit him, didn't throw him the ball. But I think Kyle Juszczyk is an underused, valuable weapon in this offense. And I want to see him get more opportunities to make plays. I really do.
He's a captain, he's a captain. He's a leader. I'm glad he took less to stay here. All these guys, I mean, let's be honest that, this year is the last best chance for these guys to get that ring that they seek together. George, Bosa, Kittle, CMC, Trent, this whole core of guys that they've had, Fred, Mooney. This, if they're getting the ring, this is the last best chance. I'm not saying it's the last chance, but it's, because you never know where this thing's going. All we know is that the quarterback's going to get paid a lot more, which probably logically means you're going to have less talent, which probably means you're going to take a step back, but maybe not. We'll see. But this year they are loaded, and bring it on. I think they got a great shot. And last night was hey, if last night was the opening salvo, there were a lot of people that thought, hey man, no Trent all summer, no Ayuk all summer, no CMC. The Jets are getting the Niners at the right time. And then the Niners just said, right time this.
If you can play that well with so much documented rust to worry about, without your offensive skeleton key in Christian McCaffrey, who unlocks everything, if you can look that good while you're plugging in a rookie offensive lineman, and that's the first thing we see, like you said, the opening salvo, I can't wait to see the other missiles this team fires at the league. And I'm going to tell you right now, if Christian McCaffrey is even a tiny bit sore, absolutely keep him out of that Minnesota Vikings game too. Ask Jordan Mason to do it again. Tell Patrick Taylor, you're going to be getting some carries this week. Tell Kyle Juszczyk, you're going to be involved, man, again. And you can go and win in Minnesota without Christian McCaffrey, which is something I would not have said definitively had we not seen what we saw out of Mason last night. So there's a whole new toy to play with now in Jordan Mason. And I hope that Kyle finds a balance in between using him like a rental car and forgetting to drive him at all.
I don't know if you're going to agree with me on this one, Damon. Yeah, no, I agree. I don't know if you'll agree with me on this one, but I don't personally,
agree, Larry. I don't agree. For the sake of the argument, I don't agree. Terrible point.
Yeah. Modern Sports Radio says Damon will disagree in the next segment. I don't know if you agree with this, but this is honestly how I feel. I think the 49ers last night with that performance were the most impressive team in week one. Now, I know Kansas City beat Baltimore. I know Dallas was very impressive. They went to Cleveland, slapped around the Browns. I mean, really, really kicked the Browns around. And there were some other
pretty good.
Philadelphia got a nice win over Green Bay. Yeah. There were a couple other impressive teams, but Kansas City, to me, was probably the most impressive coming into Monday, I should say. But the Niners, with 1 week of their first team offense practice together, Trent Williams held out all summer. Ayuk held out all summer. No reps, no camp at all. CMC could not answer the bell. They don't have really three of their greatest offensive players play. They either didn't have them or they weren't a shell of what they normally are. And they just put 32 on one of the great defenses in football with their number 2 running back, who had his bust out career game, and he's like 23. And their first year coordinator on defense, I thought, called a hell of a game. And the Niners secondary is loaded, and their redone line, I think, is improved up front. So I'm putting the 49ers, and I know that a lot of people say, oh, freak, that's a homer. That's a freaking homer take, because a lot of people will say Chiefs, maybe other people say other teams. Name me the team that was more impressive, all things considered, than the San Francisco 49ers in week one. Opponent and everything considered, I think they were the most impressive team from week one.
Ramp ups, holdouts, injuries, all things considered.
All the factors.
And I don't think you're far away from identifying the right team there as the most impressive. If
it's not them,
how about this?
Who would have been?
I'm not going to win any fans in the chat by saying this.
You're going to say Chicago in the second half or something?
Dallas Cowboys. Put up an impressive win in Cleveland. It was a full team, all hands on deck win. They got a real good cooking defense, and the offense did what it needed to do. And again, they were without Dak in the preseason and without CD Lamb playing any significant snaps. So they overcame some adversity and played pretty damn well.
I was gonna the other one I was thinking of is Buffalo. I thought Buffalo,
Detroit.
Yeah, Detroit. Detroit would be good, but I like Buffalo because I loved the way that the Cardinals came out in the first half, and it was 17-10 Cardinals going into the locker room, And in the second half, Josh Allen just came out and said, hey, here's 24 points in the second. Here's 24 of our 34. And they beat the Cardinals. Now, granted, it's the Cardinals at home. That's hardly the biggest, toughest game of the year.
Yeah, the Cardinals came out and showed you they were better than anyone thought. They gave Buffalo everything the Bills wanted and a little bit more. And when James Conner gets rolling, you better look out.
Chiefs, Eagles, Bills, Anthony Richardson. I guess some people would say Saints, but I won't throw Saints. Sam Darnold, Dallas, Detroit. But
Overtime
I would say
Detroit.
the Niners.
Yeah, they're right up there. I mean, they're right up there. You can't say that they are out of that conversation. That's for sure.
All right, Ricky, we'll take the last of these supers, and then we'll get back to whatever we're going to get to. Ricky Williams says,
wait. Show me the lobster roll. I feel like it's been a while since we've shown the audience the lobster roll. We want to thank Sam's for being a part of the show this year. We absolutely love that we have paired this show with a truly iconic restaurant in the Bay Area, down in Half Moon Bay. Look, I mean, just look at it. There it is. Sam's Chowder House.
Bam.
Boom.
Smell it. You can smell the chowder.
Freeze this.
Look at all those people working. That's the offensive line.
There it is. There's the star of the show.
Oh.
There's the paella. Look at that. Look at that.
The muscles are open.
Look at that satellite dish popped up clam.
The cipino, the scallops, the prawns.
Thank you, Sam. We absolutely love that you're here. And I tell you what, Larry, we are going to have to pick a day, pick a weekday, pick a weekend someday to go down to Sam's and tell the entire audience who can join us down there on the beach that we're going to go have a little picnic. And it should be an awful lot of fun.
I mean, we've had some great meet and greets, but could you imagine the meet and greet, drinking beers on the patio, eating oysters?
The meet, greet, and eat. Well, you can't top Sam's. You can't top Sam's.
I mean, seriously, we could sit out there on the patio and just watch the sun go down and have about maybe, 6 or 7 oysters and a couple bottles of beer. Oh,
there you go. There it is. Get your bibs on. It'll be a bib party. We will have a bib party.
Look at that. I already see my seat right there in the front. Oh, look at that. You get the guy mixing drinks in the back in the kitchen. Oh,
Rock Eastwood saying Mavericks. Yeah, that big point out there is where Mavericks breaks. Absolutely. That's Mavericks land down there. All right, Larry, let's go back to the starred super chats. Let's give these folks who were nice enough to, throw a little cash at us, all the love and shine that we can possibly put on them. Thanks to everyone. Like and subscribe on both these channels. Right now, Larry, between my room and your room, there's over 2,000 people watching. We got ourselves, I think, the biggest sports talk radio station in San Francisco right here, right now. So let's get to it.
All right. Ricky Williams, who once upon a time, the Saints traded their entire draft for, he says, are we looking to upgrade anywhere before the trade deadline, which is not till November, by the way. I know we played well and it's only week 1. Don't yell at me, Damon, but like they do every year, what trade can we do that makes sense for us? The beautiful part about this, Ricky, is that John Lynch has almost single-handedly made the trade a more fashionable thing. And it's now other teams are copying his formula, which is if you can make an addition in late October or early November that helps you get over the top, like a Christian McCaffrey, or John's done it a number of times. Emmanuel Sanders, Christian McCaffrey. There's probably a couple others that I can't even remember, but I do, it's a TBD, right? It's a to be determined situation, usually predicated by injury. I would say, based on what I'm looking at, that the 49ers will be in the market for an edge rush. An edge rush helper, of some kind. Though I did like, what I saw from the edge rushers last night. I do think a veteran edge rusher will probably be what they look for at the deadline.
Leonard Floyd looked good, though. Leonard Floyd stays healthy. That's really going to help the 49ers. I mean, that's the thing. The entire question of this year is health. The 49ers got the team. They got the skill. They got the coaching. If they got the health that any going to the playoff team really needs to have underneath it, there's nothing that this team can't do. There is no team in football that they cannot beat. All due respect to the Kansas City Chiefs and them beating the Niners in the biggest game of the year twice. There's no team in football the 49ers aren't absolutely in the conversation with. And that's a really good place to be operating from as a fan. Because this is
I'll say this. I think the 49ers are a team that really, outside of circumstance, true circumstance, I think they're unblowoutable. I think they can blow you out. I think you can beat them, but they're a hard team to blow off the map. I mean, I've been watching them under the Shanahan era. I can't think of too many blowouts.
The Niners don't make an awful lot of mistakes. And if they're not making mistakes, helping the other team with, stolen possessions or great field position, yeah, I agree. They're tough to blow out. They are not a team that you can just take advantage of. I mean, what? The Dolphins came in and kicked their ass. We saw
the Jimmy G thing. You mean that Ryan Fitzpatrick 43-17 or whatever. Yeah, I mean that was an aberration.
Got away.
Kansas City beat them bad in a game where Brock played, right? That game a couple years ago, Brock's rookie year. Jim Molay's in the house. What's up, Jimmy? Jimmy just got married. He's newlywed, if you guys can tell. He looks very happy.
Wedding? Was that the Wednesday wedding?
What's that?
Was that the Wednesday wedding?
Yes, the Wednesday wedding.
There you go, Jim.
Jimmy on a Wednesday. He says, before we go, Sac State Hornets starting the season 0-2.
Oh, Jesus.
How do the Stingers save the season and compete for another Big Sky playoff spot?
Hey, since we're talking
college, I watched him against San Jose State.
Cares about Larry, we're going to have to do a very much abbreviated wake up on Friday because I got a plane to catch down to LA. I'm going to IU UCLA at the Rose Bowl this weekend. Flying back first thing Sunday morning to do 49ers and Vikings. But
take pictures of the outside of the Rose Bowl. I mean, walking into the Rose Bowl with the ivy growing all over the outside of it, it looks so unbelievably cool. I mean, Damon, seriously, you got to get the pictures of the outside of the Rose Bowl.
I will. Look, I'm crossing this one. I'm crossing this one off my bucket list. This is a stadium I've always wanted to go to. I've never been to it, and so I'm so excited. I've been in touch. I'm texting Trace Jackson Davis. I think we're going to meet up down in Pasadena. He's going to a big Hoosier tailgate. So
he won't be hard to find. He'll be an easy guy to find.
There he is.
Is Trace Jackson Davis at this tailgate? No, he's not here. Let's go to the next tailgate. Kevin Wood in the house says Warner being better than Willis is debatable now.
We'll get there. Let's see if we get there.
I think Willis was better than Warner.
Well, you really don't get better than Willis. Like, you don't really get better than Hall of Famers. But I think Fred will put himself in the conversation.
Fred's a better coverage guy. But Willis was much more of a player going forward.
They played in different eras.
Yeah.
When different skill sets were needed at the position. I don't remember Patrick Willis dropping into coverage like not once. He was just their headhunting line. He was headhunting running backs and freaking quarterbacks. Like, that's what he did. He just stopped everything before it got behind him.
I mean, if you close your eyes and you picture Patrick Willis, you see a guy that's like leaning forward. If you picture Fred Warner, you picture a guy that's like this. Why? Because he can also turn and run and play, coverage, or he can run and rush the passer. Fred, I think, is the greatest coverage linebacker I've ever seen.
He's the queen on the chessboard. He can move in any direction.
He's a tremendous coverage player. Robert Baldacci says, hey, here you go. Thank you, Robert.
2 bones. Thank you.
Blood Moon says, Slick Rick coming back will get us on another level. There you go, Ricky Pearsall.
By the way, a really nice moment, Larry. Ricky Pearsall gave autographed jerseys to the 2 women who were the first responders to his situation in Union Square. The police officer who was the first responder, and then the woman who was the doctor who basically, took care of him at the hospital. So very nice on-field moment for Ricky Pearsall. And I mean, the 49ers, as we see them right now, are going to add more talent. I mean, they did what they did last night without the biggest free agent signing in the history of the franchise, Christian McCaffrey, and the number 1 draft pick of this last draft. So they're going to get Christian McCaffrey and their number 1 draft pick added to this offense, which, again, put up 30 plus last night and went for 400 yards against a really good defense. So just stay healthy, add pieces, get better, They need a good start. They need a fast start this year. They got to be 4-1 after 5 weeks here for it all to fit together. And I think that they're on track to do that.
We got this one from my Rhino. He said, how about Cal in Auburn? How about Cal's quarterback? Did you watch any of Cal Auburn this weekend? Did you see any of that? Cal went to, Jordan Denny and knocked off Auburn. I mean, now Auburn Cal last year in Berkeley was a really good game. But this year, you figured, okay, they're they're going to get destroyed, right? They're on the road in the SEC. They're probably going to get absolutely annihilated. And instead, Cal came out and they played well. And they got the win. So good for the Golden Bears. I mean, I thought that was
Fernando Mendoza is their quarterback, and he looked good. And I loved. Somebody tweeted this out. They're like, "Hey, in Berkeley, a town that's made up of a whole bunch of liberal, commie, pinko homos, it just means more." I love that tweet. It's perfect. Sorry, SEC. Just means more out here in Liberalville.
I mean, 21-14, Cal beats Auburn on the road. Fernando Mendoza, 25 of 36, 233, 2 touchdowns. He's also a good runner. He had 5 carries, 12 yards. Look at Cal. I mean, Cal only ran for 2.9 a carry and still found a way to win the game. So good for the Golden Bears.
Guido Ravagnani saying Brazil is in the house. Congrats. Great content. Well, oi, tutu bang. Thank you very much, Guido. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. So there you go. There's all of our starred chats and super chats for the day. Overall, though, I would say, a very, very solid 49er win across the board. I'm going to be stopping by, I believe, later on today or this morning with let's see, when am I stopping by? I'll have to check my schedule, but I think I'm appearing later today on KMBR, and of course Niners Nightly tonight at 6:00, and it's a YouTube only deal because the Giants are on the radio for a whole nother week here. So we'll be all on.
I will not be appearing on any Bay Area radio stations going forward in my career. So, we got an 11 o'clock show on YouTube that I'm really looking forward to hosting. We got some things coming up this week, guest wise, that I think are going to make some really interesting shows coming up. So thanks to everyone for watching. Like and subscribe on both of our channels. Please hit notify on both of our channels. Thank you so much for watching. And again, week 1 could not have fit into the books any better than that, really couldn't have. So congrats to the Niners. They're off to the start that they needed. And
good win.
Awful lot of fun too. And just, it's so good to have football back, man. I feel normal again. Don't you feel like you got more in your life to be excited about now that it's football season again? Maybe that's a sad statement, but I don't think so, man. I love this.
Well, you know what I like? I like the set schedule where it's like, you got the games. It's a little bit of more of a regimented schedule when in football season, because you got Thursday night football, you got Monday night football, you got Saturday college games, you got NFL. So there you go. M. Patel says Larry also said low scoring. Yeah, I went with the under and lost by, I think, a little bit. I guess the over under was
why it's called gambling, kids.
Yeah. It was.
By the way, Bet US.
It crept over.
Bet US used promo code YouTube 150. There you go.
Yeah. But anyway, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to everybody. Thanks to all of you guys. And as Trent Baalke would say, it's good to see the Niners get a win because John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, those guys are football guys. And Jordan Mason, I'll tell you, man, that kid can run the rock, and he's a true football guy.
Imagine how good he would be if he only had one ACL. I see potential in a one ACL Jordan Mason.